In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the radiator on this Chevy Equinox. For this job, we have to remove the bumper cover and the AC condenser. So you're going to want to recover the refrigerant that's in the system. You don't want to open any AC lines with pressure and refrigerant still in the system. We have already done that, so we're good to move along. From underneath the vehicle, you'll see two 7mm screws that hold the fender liner onto the front bumper. Remove both of these. And do the same on the other side. You can pull the fender liner, unclip it from the bumper cover. It should pull away. Follow the fender liner up into the wheel well, and if you turn the wheels, you'll have access to the two push clips and two T20 Torx screws that secure it on the side. So use a trim tool and pop the center of these out, and then remove the rest. There we go. This should move now. Do the same on the other side. Looking right up here in this cutout, you'll see that there's a 7mm headed screw holding the bumper cover onto the fender. Remove that. And then of course do the same on the other side. At the top with the hood open, you'll see four T20 Torx screws. Remove all four. There are also two small push clips that we have to remove on either side of these hood bump stops. In my case, I have to press down on the center and then use a trim tool to pry the rest of the push clip out. This one's kind of broken, so I'm going to replace that. But once you remove these, the top of the bumper cover should be free. On each side where we unbolted the bumper cover from the fender, you should be able to pull it away. It'll pop out of its retainer clips and underneath the headlight as well, just like that. Now don't go too far with it. We're going to have to disconnect the plug for the fog lights. If you peel the bumper cover away on the side, you'll see the plug accessible right here. And to disconnect it, there's two tabs, one on each side. You have to pry them away kind of at the same time and then pull down on the connector. There we go. Do the same on the other side. With all that disconnected, grab the bumper cover and pull it away. We're going to have to remove this shield here. It's got a few push clips. Mine is broken on this side, but there still is one attached over there. Take a trim tool and pop it out. Remove this shield. There's also a lower shield. It's held on the exact same way. This one I actually might be able to just grab and pull. There we go. On the other side of this, the ambient temp sensor is connected. So just pop this up, or actually just unplug it. If it doesn't pop up easily, it's easier to just leave it attached and remove the connector and then pry the shield away. If you twist and turn this shield, find the right angle, you should be able to come out of here. You just have to clear these transmission lines. On the driver's side of the AC condenser, there are two 13mm mounting nuts that we have to remove. This is what holds the lines onto the condenser. When you pop these lines away, you may hear a hissing noise. The machine that drains the refrigerant usually puts a vacuum on it at the end. There we go. That's the vacuum being removed. Pull these away. Quite a bit of corrosion on here, but looks like it doesn't affect the seal or the integrity of either the condenser or the line, so that's good. There's a 10mm bolt at the top holding the condenser on the radiator. Remove this. Looks like someone's been in here before since there's some washers stacked on here. I'll take those off. Do the same on the other side. Now you can pull the condenser straight up. And there it is. On the passenger side of the radiator, you'll find the drain plug here. I have a piece of hose that fits right over the petcock, and that is because I don't want it to shoot straight back and onto the frame and splash everywhere. But I'm going to direct this into my collection bucket so I can cleanly drain this with minimal mess. Turn this counterclockwise to unthread it. Don't pull this all the way out because coolant will start shooting straight out of it. But at this point, there is coolant coming out of my hose, so I'm just going to let this drain. To speed up the process and allow air to enter the system while it's being drained, remove the overflow bottle cap. There we go. You'll hear the coolant coming out quite a bit faster, and now just let it drain. Once the radiator is done draining, close it off That way it stops dripping. And if you had a hose installed here, remove it. On the driver's side of the radiator, at the bottom, you'll find the lower radiator hose. I'm going to grab some pliers, pinch the hose clamp, push it away. Once it's far back enough, you'll be able to very gently squeeze this hose, give it a couple twists to break it free. Coolant will be coming out at this point, so have your collection bucket ready. There we go. We're going to leave that there. Looking right above the lower radiator hose, you'll see this line that goes in. Pry the plastic cap back, and then with a pick, you're going to want to pick the snap ring, or the C-clip, I should say, that holds it on. Looks like it's on the back side of it, so it's going to be a little tricky to get, but if you just pull one edge away, it'll pop out, and then you can grab it. There we go. Try not to make these go flying. Take it out of there, and then this cooler line should be able to pop out. Of course, fluid will come out, so have a collection bucket ready to catch said fluid. There we go. Just let this drain, and there is actually another line just like it, slightly above. Do the same to that one. It's hard to see, but you can reach it from up top or from the side. At the top of the radiator, this AC line is clipped into this retainer. Push it back. This is actually the fan shroud, but I'm gonna pull the fan shroud off with the radiator, tilt it forward, and separate it once it's off the vehicle. I just find it a lot easier to do it that way. If you wanted to separate it now, you could also do that, but it's a little bit more difficult. Use a 13mm socket and remove the 2 bolts that hold the top of the radiator brackets onto the top radiator support. You can also remove the brackets at this point. The upper radiator hose is at the top of the passenger side of the radiator. Grab some pliers, squeeze this clamp in, push it back. With it pushed far enough back, you'll be able to take the upper radiator hose off the radiator. There we go. Now you can tilt the radiator forward. Pay attention to these AC lines. You can't remove it yet because we still have the fans attached, but it's a lot easier to unplug the connectors of the fans at this point. This right here is the connector for the fans. You're going to want to press on that center tab and pull it away. There we go. The harness is also secured on here, so just remove it from the retainers and do the same on the other side. The other fan is exactly the same. Once you've done that, the radiator and fan shroud assembly should come right up and out. There we go. Before I go much further, I just wanted to note that on the bottom, these rubber grommets have to be removed from the radiator and reinstalled on the new one. You're left with a plastic pin. That's just to line it up and hold it. Do the same on the other side of the radiator. These two are both the same. Here's the radiator facing down on the ground. The fan assembly is held on with 2 10mm bolts, one on each side. Once that's taken out, slide it up and right out. And there is our radiator. Here's the new radiator. Face it in the same orientation. Put the fan shroud on it and slide it down into these hooks. Now reinstall the 2 mounting bolts, one on each side. Just snug them up. You don't need to go very tight on these or you'll break the plastic. It just needs to hold it so it doesn't move around. Before installing any new radiator, I always double check the petcock. This one's nice and tight. Sometimes they're a little bit loose and you definitely don't want this leaking as you put coolant in to fill it up. Before you install the new radiator, make sure you put the rubber grommets on the bottom here, the ones that we removed off the old one, on both sides. These should stay on the radiator. If they don't, I'll make sure they actually make it down into their retainers on the bottom. And slide the radiator in. Pay attention to your lines and the fins on the radiator, as well as the wires that are in the way. At the bottom where the rubber grommets go in, this is what you want it to look like, completely flush. If it's not in here, that means it's not seated properly. This applies to both sides. And before you push the radiator all the way in, don't forget to reconnect the fan assembly. Make sure the connector clicks when you plug it in. There we go. And resecure the harness right over here so it doesn't get in the way of anything. If your retainer is broke, use a wire tie, but you want to make sure this stays secured. Do the same to the other fan. As you push the radiator in, this upper hose needs to line up. So push that on. Make sure that's bottomed out. Grab your pliers and put the clamp back on. Make sure you line it up with how it was before, or at least get it as close as possible so it can have the best chance of sealing up. Reconnect the lines that go on the radiator. This is the top one right here. All you have to do is click it in. That locking clip should already be installed in the radiator. Wiggle it around while you push. This usually helps it go in all the way. There we go. You can see the clip expand and then snap back over the line. That's how you know it's locked in. You can also pull on it to ensure that it's locked in, and then bring that plastic cap over, which locks in the clip. Make sure that's seated over it, just like that. And at the bottom, do the same with this other line. Slide it in. That just clicked. I'm gonna bring this plastic cover over. That's seated. That's perfect. And then since we're here, might as well reconnect the lower radiator hose. Slide that all the way, make sure it's bottomed out. Let's put the clamp on. Line that up with where it was before. Reinstall the brackets that hold the radiator at the top. Make sure they line up. And put in the bolts. Since they both have a slot and they're adjustable, I'm just gonna tighten this one down before I put the other one in. We're going to come back and torque these in a second, but let's get them both snugged up. The torque for these is 18 foot-pounds. That's it. Install the AC condenser. Has two tabs, one on each side right here and down there that have to line up with the radiator. That's one down there. And another one down here. Let's attach the AC condenser to the radiator with the two bolts at the top. Make sure you line up this side first because it's not slotted. There's no adjustment on here. The other side does have a slight adjustment. Snug this up. We'll come back to torque it. The torque on this is 80 inch-pounds. And there it is. From the old AC condenser, you're going to have to remove the two mounting studs that hold on the lines. Mine are in poor condition, they're rusted and they won't come out. You would use an E7 inverted torque socket, put it on here and unthread it. And because of the condition of mine, I have two new ones that I'm going to install in the new AC condenser. Thread these on. Mine have a flat area here in the middle. I'm going to use pliers on that to thread them in. And you just want to snug them. They don't have to be crazy tight because when you put the mounting nut on the other side, it pulls on the whole stud and basically tightens both ends. Now take the lines and slide them on. I recommend new gaskets, and you can lubricate them with PAG oil if needed. Reinstall the two mounting nuts. I'm going to snug them up and then we'll torque them. The torque for these is 16 foot-pounds. That's snug. And snug. Reinstall this shield on the bottom, and when you do, make sure you don't hit your radiator or the AC condenser fins as you bring it up. You're going to have to twist it around the cooler lines here. Just like so, and then it's got this cutout that lines up with the lines. Once it's in position, install the push clips to hold it on. Right here it has a hook that goes onto this line here, supports it on the front. Plug in the ambient air temp sensor. Make sure that clicks. Reinstall the top cover and make sure it lines up with the bottom. Install the push clips on this one as well. Now bring in the bumper cover, line it up. Push this back down. Secure the sides with the little push clips. There we go. And then the torque screws at the top. Snug them up. Now don't forget to plug in your fog light bulbs on both sides. Make sure that connector clicks. On the corner here, make sure the bumper lines up and clip it in. Now let's put in the 7mm screw to secure it. There we go. Following the fender liner down, put in the push clips as well as the Torx headed screws. At the bottom, you're probably going to have to push this bumper in to make it line up and then set the push clip through. At the bottom, make sure you line up the fender liner and put in the 2 mounting screws. Do the same to the other side. It's time to fill up the cooling system. I have this funnel set up here that's going to prevent me from spilling everywhere. Right before the bottom of the tank meets the top half of the tank, you'll see where the cold fill line is. That's basically the full mark for the cooling system. So because of that, I'm not going to put coolant in this funnel and leave it full like on a system where I fill through the radiator, because I don't want this tank to be overfilled. I'm just going to use this as a funnel to prevent spilling, and I'm going to let the tank do the bleeding. And now just take the manufacturer specified coolant and fill it up. I took the funnel off just so that the coolant tank isn't overfilled. I'm going to run the engine now and let the water pump circulate the coolant through the system, push all the air out. As it warms up, the thermostat will open up as well, causing more flow and therefore bleeding it a lot better. So you just want to let it warm up. Pay attention to that temperature gauge, make sure it doesn't spike, make sure it doesn't overheat on you. Have the heat set to high, so the highest possible heat setting. With the blower on low, you don't want to cool down the coolant, you just want to feel for heat in the heater core, make sure it's full of coolant. And after a while, you should see no more air bubbles, and the level in the coolant tank should settle to one particular height, and at that point you either top it off or remove some if it's either too low or too high, and that's it. Once you're done, cap this off. Make sure you tighten it until it bottoms out completely. Now that the job is complete, have the AC system professionally charged so that the right amount of refrigerant and PAG oil makes its way back in the system so it can function properly. There you have it, job is done.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.